So, this is our last session together. Are you a little bit sad? I am.
Maybe we'll bug you in the future as well. You never know.
Yeah, but please do. Please do. But it's a good sign. It means we had a good time together. I like that. So, I already said what we're going to do today. I want to just remind us of something before we do that, which is this. So you remember this, right? This is the hero's journey. And what happened in the last weeks is we got a supernatural aid, remember? Your little alien. And also some tools that can help you on a journey like that. And then as we went deeper, it started feeling more maybe useless, painful, right? We somehow got to a place that wasn't that comfortable. And then it was a turning point. We somehow got out of that and we understood that there is something to be taken away from this. We have a new set of tools, a new set of insights, each of you individually and differently, not the tools I gave you, tools that you found along the way. And now you're going back into your reality with that enhanced tool set. You're stronger than before. That's where we are right now. That means that now you can start playing with this. Now you can start using all of the tools you have found during this journey and head on jump into the next iteration of that journey, right? This is not the end. This is just the beginning of the next circle, right? And there'll be a new abyss and you'll get out of it and there'll be another one. And every time you come up stronger. And that's the whole purpose, being able to do that, knowing how to do that, wanting to do that even, because you know you get out strong at the other end and becoming really skillful at facing the abyss. Okay? So let's play with that a little and use that, all of what we learned today to, as we said yesterday, rip apart the others and then give them all the love they deserve. Okay, so in order to do that, and please be totally awake, alert, take notes when you hear the others talk. You want to do them a real favor and rip them apart properly. Okay. Is there a team that wants to go first? Fellowship, maybe? You're sitting in the same room? You seem prepared?
Why not?
Yeah.
Right. Then take your time and tell us where you are, what you're planning to do, and maybe what you don't know, right? Anything is welcome. What's most relevant to you as a team right now, and what are you working on? That's what we need to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Where are we at right now? Okay. Someone needs to mute. Well, since we presented the last time, we have been moving further through processes and trying to use the tools that you've given. So going through some sort of sprint, we have arrived at some suggestions for projects, and yeah, and in that, from the kind of Oslo, regenerative Oslo idea that we had last time, we developed that into a project around community gardening and green roofs. That is standardizing community gardens to be sold to borettslag. I still haven't learned the English word for that. And also looking into everything green that could be done for communities in the shape of concrete plants, roofs, things, because when we've researched for now, it's like very, you can have the cases and some sort of sets and boxes for that, but it's not really a standardized setup for with plans and maintenance schemes and things like that. And in combination with that, we also looked into, because our underlying problem, maybe we should start with that. This presentation kind of resembles our process, I think. The underlying problem that we kind of identified after having identified the project was that we see a lack of connection between people and a growing distance between humanity has kind of set itself aside, and nature is something else, and we don't that much see ourselves as part of nature anymore. So there's a lacking connection, there's a lacking sense of belonging to a natural system and seeing our place within that system. So this community gardening project is seen as maybe a sub-project, or like together with what we called an urban forest. So could we make a place within the city that has a forest quality? There is like forest close to the city in Oslo, but not really within the city. So we would think, like, if we could establish this forest or park that resembles a forest for real, with plants and things like that, maybe the community garden could be like copy pasting or clipping out a little piece of that forest so that you can bring it home and feel part of that greater natural community or patch within the city. So now I've started from 3, like we're sharing the screen, the community gardening, the green roofs, and then the urban urskog in Norwegian. It's kind of the oldest forest there is there. It's not going to be like a real old forest if we make it from scratch, but that's the thought, to reconnect people to nature. And then out from that, if that's a successful process, the number 1 that you see is that in this process, we want to emphasize both the process itself, so that we become a good team, that we kind of remain intact on the regenerative side ourselves. And we also want to do a good project. So, and at the end of it, we kind of set the goal to go into this project process as if we were establishing a project bureau. We don't know if we're going to succeed at doing our project in that way, but at least we agreed upon putting in the effort so that would be a possible outcome from this whole process that we're going through. Right. You want to add to that?
Sure.
So
Right. I can say a little bit about the process we did. Yes, and by the way, they were not ranked. We were just how we did it to be able to have some sorting. Then we had a round of trying to map out the problems we could think about, and this was not necessarily the problems, but the model around the product. It was more, what are the kind of problems we want to work on broadly, and from that, we tried to use your idea of components, and individually, I don't know, in like 15 to 20 minutes or so, we tried to write down as many components we saw that was a part of the idea that we had, mostly focusing around the product idea of producing and selling the product and so on. Tried to boil it down a bit. And then we got to the most important components, which we spent a bit of time on. Not having done this before, of course, we also tried to use the Fibonacci numbers, which was an interesting experience. I think it worked. We had some interesting conversations. We did the thing of the person with the lowest and the person with the highest number have a discussion after each person voting on each and writing down the number they would give. And then they too had a conversation, and then everyone had a conversation afterwards and found a common number for now, if we were establishing the company right now, what would be most important and how it would be important in a more established future. And that's...
Then I can. Hi, can you hear me? Yeah. So this we did on Wednesday. Yeah. And then yesterday we thought about like asking people about the project. So we had kind of split up yesterday. So me and Alim went out in the streets to try and talk to people. And we were just trying to like ask them about the question or about the project, having really open questions, because we didn't want to we just asked like, how can we bring more nature into the city? Do you think the city is green? And stuff like that. And I'm not going to go through all the outcomes, but it might seem like either we need to look at the problem in a different way, or we need to reframe the questions we're asking. Because when asked, do you want the city to be greener? People said no, or they just said it's green enough. So I think this kind of shows that we have to work more with it, and maybe we need to be like more strict when we ask people what they think about it. But it might, like the forest stuff and the trees and the parks, people are like, oh yeah, we have a lot of parks in Oslo, that's great. So we might not have like a different approach, and maybe trying the more grow your own vegetables direction, because people might be more interested in that, since we already also have a community garden, but there's a long waiting list to get it. So if we could like get people to do that at home, maybe that's a better approach to working to a project. You want to say something?
Yeah. I was just like, I think we've just been testing things out and making use of tools, and trying to think, like, tap into our own passion individually and as a team. And I think maybe next in line for us is, after this talking with people in the streets, is maybe going back to those first principles of the problems and really doing that value mapping before we're going to develop the project into a more specific direction, I guess.
It would also be interesting with the questionnaire.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we hop on to the next group for their presentation, are there any questions you have, all the others? Is there anything you need to know from the group so you can properly rip them apart?
Yeah, one question. Is it about like making this forest in the city, or is it about like creating this hageplettene man kan dyrke på? Or is it about growing stuff in the city? Or both?
Possibly both.
Well, what's strongest? Both? Is the equal strong, or what's your?
That's
Don't hear anything.
no. For now we don't know, but like we were trying to research this topic, this problem, like reconnecting to nature along those two different versions of that same problem.
Just to comment on this, I mean, that is definitely like some of the underlying elements of it. But when we're talking about the components specifically and trying to work on that issue, that was the part of the, I would say mostly part of the behind it. How can we not only sell the product, but the idea of the forest giving back, and also maybe having that in your home in your local area. So yeah, it needs to be more refined, definitely.
Oh, but let's not go into critique. Let's just clarifying questions. Anything else that you need to know? Right now? Okay. Avkled, why don't you go now? We had a little warm up before the session, so pretty sure you're ready. You want to take it?
One question. Is it better, like, if we're gonna rip it apart, isn't it better to just do it after a presentation?
Not entirely sure about it. My plan was to have everybody present and then rip everything apart and then love everything. But we can. I'm open. We can do this group by group and do the whole thing for each group at one time. So who wants to have all groups first and then go into the process? And who thinks it's better to do the process per group entirely? So who thinks the first? And who thinks the second? Okay, that's a clear vote. Sorry, Ruben and Sophia. Okay, then no way out for Avkled.
Sofie, vil du? Eller? Ja.
So for my, the only reason I wanted to do the, just by the way, wanted to do the whole thing at once is just because it's very hard to remember what people have said. But maybe there's like a refresher before the second part then, or
That's why it's advisable to write down. Have you written anything?
no, I lost my internet, so I just it took a long time to get it back. So I just I was just here for the end. So, but the end sounded great.
But the others, have you taken notes of fellowship?
Yeah.
I know Ingeborg has.
Everybody's on the team.
All right. Well, but she always takes notes, so.
I took some notes.
Good. All right. So you have to rely on your notes. Maybe that's also part of the exercise. Who knows? All right. So let's go.
Yeah. So we have the Women's Porn magazine, you guys. we haven't really, like, what we've been doing since last week is trying to get some insight, do some research about it. Like, would it even be doable? And seeing like what components is most important to us, because the main like idea is trying to like start a creative collective, and the first project would be the women's porn magazine, which would focus a lot on women's health. So yeah, not a lot of new information, to be honest. We've just tried to see like who we can talk to and what it can become, but we've realized that we need to go deeper into like the true why of what we want to do, and to see if it can be achieved in different forms than a porn magazine. So yeah, I think that's because I now I'm just assuming that you remember our idea from last time.
Don't assume anything ever. And maybe the others can help you.
Yes, please.
I think that does pretty much sum it up. We also want to create a universe around, so like podcasts, an online part,
Merch.
uploads, social media and stuff. Vad sa du, Emilia?
Jeg?
Mm.
No, I didn't say anything. It was me.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and I think one of our main things is that it creates value for the reader, that we have truthful articles that educates and raises awareness around different topics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any clarifying questions in the other groups around what Avkled is trying to do? Ina.
Because you mentioned the women's health aspect in this, could you elaborate on the health issue aspect a little more?
I think there's several factors in this, but we would have articles that would encompass a lot of women's health, like it's like it's so hard to talk about in English. I don't know why, but like how
Man siger, en ting, jeg har nu lagt en mail ud med, hvad de
Lars.
Sophia, you did great an hour ago explaining this. So take a breath and do it again.
I think it's just because one of the factors is that we want to man, guys, like my team, you gotta help me out, man.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's too little focus on women's health. We talked a lot about that, but in our magazine, we want to put a focus, or we really want to have like a classy, sexy focus on putting like pleasure to the women and LGBTQIA community. And then we want to have articles about, for example, how to have sex with endometriosis, and how to have or putting focus on if you're in a wheelchair, or if you have problems with your body, but how to still have sex, or how to how to I forgot, but just putting like every body and every health issue. And did I forget something now? And Yeah, no.
8 o'clock for the first call is clearly too early for you guys. I can see that now.
Yeah.
Because we just had a call with Avglit the last hour. It seems like you need to have more sleep, all of you. All right. Well, Thomas, you also raised your hand with a question. What's your question? Did Thomas drop out?
It looks like that.
He's in the same room.
You hear me now?
Right? Yeah, we can hear you.
You're on.
Okay. What would you say is the like main function of the porn angle? You could describe it.
What is the main function of the porn angle?
We think it could attract like the normal girl in the street to be to influence them in a fun and interactive way.
It's also like the porn industry today is catered towards men, so it's half giving women an option as well, and also a lot of research shows that teenagers, young women, and young guys, for that sake, get a lot of their information from porn. So it's also kind of like sexual education and just being a more trustworthy source for young women to learn about sex.
Okay. Anything else? No. All right. Feng, your turn.
All right. I'll try to share perhaps the database. Or is this screen too small? Or maybe some of you other guys could share the idea database.
Yeah.
Or I can try. It just doesn't show up on my screen apparently.
Hvordan gjør jeg det? Skal jeg trykke på Brave browser?
Did I do it?
Yeah.
Did it work?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So yes, the last couple of weeks we've been going through our ideas, and we kind of in the beginning, it was also with a meeting with Thomas, we were kind of set on 2 of them, or we land on 2 of them a little bit. We're like, oh yeah, we're gonna go for these 2. And then yes, we also done like a rating, and then 3 kind of popped up on the top, which is communication, creative hub, and library. So these are the 3 that we kind of work with after we did the rating. And then after these weeks, yeah, the last days have gone into kind of, because I think that the strongest one was the library at the beginning of this week. We were kind of like, oh, we're going to go for that because it's possible for us to do something. We could visually see what it should be, and we started thinking about like, who should we talk about, the different parts of it, how do we solve it, and it was kind of clear to us, and also a lot of people around us said that this is something that should happen, and that there's been more people that's been saying that they wanted to do it, so they're kind of pushing us.
Sorry, should we explain just very briefly what the ideas are?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the library is a clothing library. And one of the reasons why we've been thinking about that is that right now we have, for example, Thais, who sells used clothing from person to person. And then we have stuff like Fyong, which rents out clothing, but then you would need to pay over 1,000 kroners a month to be able to rent like 3 items. And it's quite exclusive clothing. So what we thought here was to kind of make it a bit more available for all people, and also have good clothing, but not exclusive clothing, not like the top designers and stuff, but it should just be clothing that you would want to use, and to make it possible for people to actually care about fashion and also care about the environment. So you can change out your what's it called? No, clothing library, I guess, at home. In order to change it up a little and not stay within a certain space, because you have other spaces like Northern Playground, for example, which is more in focus of that you have some clothing that you have throughout your lifetime, and that's what you should go for. But this would then make it possible to change it up, and it will also be a physical place in Oslo, and we've already seen people going in this direction. So we were kind of like, okay, let's just figure this and how it should be done. But yeah, throughout the last days, we kind of started to go into where are we going with this, and is this something that some of us want to do? And that became a no for all of us. So it was kind of like, okay, why do you work for this if we actually don't want to be in a store working with clothing? So we scrapped it, and then we focused on the two other things. And I thought that I was going to explain those two. And then for the communication and Creative Hub, I can start with the Creative Hub maybe. You guys are over my description. So with the Creative Hub, the vision is kind of to create a space that makes it possible to be creative and create more innovation, because we do feel like Oslo is a young city when it comes to innovation, and we want to create a space where that's going to be more prevalent and make it larger also for people, because you do have like spaces, mesh and stuff like that, where startups and entrepreneurs can meet, but we don't really have anything for people who want to get into the environment and just want to have a space to kind of hang out and do remote work, for example, meet people that want to do more creative work. So the concept is in the daytime is for remote work, and we've been looking into different processes of how do we actually make that, how do we make money on it in regards to, is it going to be membership, is it going to be that you can book a table, and how we make that work, and then it's going to be a space where you don't get interrupted too much by people who do other things than remote work. And we've also been thinking about that you don't need to be committed to kind of using money on food and beverages all day, because then it's like if you do remote work then and you need to do cafes every day, you're going to be quite broke. And if you're then in a startup, then good luck with that kind of. But we have seen that most people within this field do want good coffee, so we probably can't skip that part. Yes, and then we've been thinking about like partnership with Health Eats, for example, where they can have one of these. They sell salads and stuff that we can kind of have a machine that you can get that from and stuff. And the evening and the weekend, we wanted to have a space where it pushes playfulness and creativity and innovation. So having workshops and classes and courses, we could put in like improv. Just having a space that you can go to kind of have fun, and where we want to kind of be inspired by Bastard Cafe, which is in Copenhagen, where you have like games and stuff. But we're also been talking about like we can't put every idea into this place, so we need to see what would be complementary to each other and what would make sense. So that's also what we've been doing the last couple of days. But and also we've been thinking about like what are the components, what is important, also kind of the space. I perhaps don't need to go into all of that, and also been seeing kind of which people we need to contact with, and we have been starting to do that. So we have a couple of meetings lining up for the next couple of weeks to kind of see if this makes sense, or if someone else is already doing it, or if we could get some input from people who already are in this field. Do you guys want me to tell, like my team, should I tell anything more about this that is crucial? Don't want to take up too much.
No, if it's needed, we can add some more at the end if it's something's unclear.
Yeah, just let us know if you want some more information on anything. Yes, I also heard like people that wanted actually to build this before, but they got bought up and stuff, and then it got streamlined, and we don't like that. And then the other idea is about communication. So this is a bit more in the beginning phase where you see that this is probably, we need to use a lot of time understanding how do we actually tackle this in the best way within this project period. And do we then make a pilot project or something? But this is about how people can become better with language, understand what language can do in relation with other people and the way that we speak, and understanding how we can speak on a meta level about how we communicate with each other. So since language also defines how you look at the world and other people. And this is the project that we have realized intrigues us the most for the long run. This is something that we would like to work on. But the other one is also for a long run, but it's kind of a different, we kind of see that, okay, these could be mixed in the future if it would be two like different ones. Yes, so yeah, and within this one, mostly what we've been doing is that we see that we don't sit on enough knowledge. So we've been trying to contact psychologists and different people that we had in class. And we also wrote down you, Thomas, for the future if we're going for this. We're like, because you said that you might be interested in this one. Yeah, heads up. Yeah, and we're kind of like, we think that this project is the thing that might give us the most learning for the future within a field that we really feel is important. Because also based on some of the things that you said, Thomas, in the case of if we actually want to build something for the future, you need to be better at yourself and your relations, and kind of it starts there. So that's one of the reasons why we think this is important. And this as well, the components we tried, but we saw that it was really hard for us to kind of see the components already before we actually figure out what the pilot project needs to be and what makes sense. And fun fact, the Instagram account, which kind of inspired the idea, we contacted them, and they actually do want to have a meeting with us, which is fun. So yeah, so I think we got a lot of like, yay feeling about a lot of these people, and the psychologist as well also wanted to have a meeting and stuff. So, but yeah, we don't know too much as of right now, but we're seeing a lot of possibility. Yes.
And just adding there, like, depending on who we get on board, it will like kind of determine a lot of the direction we can take it in and how big it can go, or how like what areas we're going to be able to take it into in the beginning. So that's why we're trying to talk to as many people as possible early on.
Yeah, and we already tried to kind of talk to peers and seeing that people are getting excited about this. So, and that's cool. Seeing that it's something that's needed of some sort, if it's in the school as a class or as a course or workshops that you can kind of buy yourself into or whatever. But yeah, we need to figure that stuff out. Yeah.
Nice.
That was
Thank you. Other groups, any questions? Thomas.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm guessing the second part of communication is still very much conceptual, as it has, it's still taking shape. It's an interesting topic, so you're not like, oh, this is the service, this is the product. And you talked a bit around it, but has there been any like specific ideas of what you actually mean by helping people communicate? Is it helping people cross language barriers? People that have maybe hard to communicate in a certain way, and how that could be done? Or
it's actually, I think what we've been talking about is more actually for the everyday person, because we all go through life having a language and we speak, but have actually any of us learned anything about how we speak and why we speak that way? And do we have actually words for different ways of speaking? And for example, we've been talking about like weaponizing competence or giving
Mental
feedback,
work.
for example. Yeah, and we've been talking about in Emergence as well, for example, that you have you give feedback to each other, but how do you give it? What kind of wording do you use? So yeah, I think it's weird for us that you go through life and this is one of the fundamental things you do, but you never actually learn doing it. You learn grammar, you write Norwegian thesis and stuff like that, and you learn poems, but you actually don't get taught these the meta language, or how do you explain what's happening in a relation when you're
So it's like
talking with each other.
meta linguistics or something.
It might be, but it's just getting a language to be able to talk about how you speak with each other.
Okay.
For example,
Language for how to speak
and
with each other.
very yeah, and like Thomas, for example, he pointed out that we say, for example, we speak to each other and not with each other. That's one of the key points that kind of we have a lot of these. We don't notice that we're doing it a lot, but there's a lot of stuff that we could be better at, and I think yeah, it would make communication better and more open and more curious.
Cool.
Nice.
Ine and then Sophia.
Right. No, I think I'm gonna do most of my comment within the feedback session then, because my question was really, is this a focus on the verbal language or is it focused on understanding? For me, that could be two quite separate ways of working with it to achieve those different things.
Yeah. No, I agree. And that's also what we would need to figure out, like, for space. But I think what we've been talking about is more the verbal and actually more concrete. How do you actually use your verbal language? Because there's so many fields within this, right? On interrelational communication, which is also body language, and there's lots of it. So I think we would need to kind of narrow it down. But could do partnership with other people that do other things. But there's, yeah, the possibilities are.
Cool. Sophia.
I'll also probably say most of my stuff for the feedback, because I used to work with this. This was my last job, was with dialogue, so it's a very interesting topic. But the Instagram profile you guys spoke about that inspired you, you didn't say the name. What was the name?
Zach, what's the last name? Do you have it, Emilia?
His name is Zach Watson, but I think it's Zach Think Share, I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh? No, I think it's Zach Think Share. I can find it.
Yeah. And it has to say, it was more of an inspiration, right? It's just what like triggered a thought process. So
Yeah.
we aren't necessarily. Yeah.
It's real Zach Think Share. I can write it in the chat. But like you said, it was an inspiration, but because he talks mostly from like his point of view as a husband and a father, I think, where it's like anything from how he asks if he can help write the shopping list that week, like all of these things he goes through, like this is a good way to ask and this is a bad way to ask, and like explains it really well, because a lot of couples don't think about that, and it causes a lot of tension and a lot of aggression between couples and misunderstanding because of how we formulate ourselves without even thinking about it, because we've never been taught it. And that's like, I think that's what kind of triggered us to be like, oh my God, but this is like a world of possibilities of kind of helping people in any situation communicate better in order to, I don't know, live more harmoniously.
But have you done research on who also does this in Norway?
Not yet.
Quite a lot. Okay.
Yeah, and it also depends on what kind of direction we go, right? So depending on what people do, we need to talk to people who know the field and see if there's anyone doing the same, because you have a lot of like psychologists and stuff like that, right? But they usually handle the problem of communication and other stuff. Obviously, there's not only that. But that's after the fact. So we kind of want to do something that can, what is that in English?
Prevent or
yeah, prevent. And there's a lot of like books on this like nonviolent communication. There's tons of books, but I haven't seen anything in Oslo, at least. So yeah, we need to do some proper.
Best Fred Center is opening a dialogue center as well, so it's a very hot topic. And I recommend checking out Flux Dialog as well, because they did school as well, which is what you're kind of referring to.
Nice.
Let's stay in question mode for here, and give feedback later. Okay. Any other question might be there? Right. So, here's what we do. We meet back here at 10:30. This gives you half an hour to work and 10 minutes to chill. Right, I'm not forgetting your breaks. What I'm going to do is I'm going to already open the breakout rooms for the 3 groups, and you can self-sort into them. And I'll also keep this space open so that you don't have to go out and come back in. And yeah, then we just meet back here in 40 minutes and start the journey. Cool. See you in a moment. So, Bang and Avkled. The stage is yours to rip apart Fellowship. Who wants to begin?
We can start.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we wrote down a lot of different things. Hvis du vil
And
være
just
med og rip apart, så kommer du.
We're recording this, but Fellowship, please take notes. This is important information.
Okay. So first of all, we feel like it's not super clear what you actually want to do, and how we're hearing it is kind of like you want to get more greenery into Oslo city. But first thing we're thinking is, but there's already so much greenery. Like there's parks everywhere. There's there's literally trees and forests surrounding the whole city. Like, so we're a bit like, are you wanting to do this because you're thinking that you want to make cities in general greener, and then you're just starting in Oslo because it's here you are, so like you're seeing it more as a global thing rather than a local thing. Yeah, we're not really like clear on whether it's like you feel like Oslo is not green enough and you want to bring more green into it.
Don't give them ways out yet. Just rip it apart.
Okay. Yeah, so basically, why Oslo? We're thinking that forests, like why forests wouldn't like wouldn't there be other ways that could what's it called? Make it greener in a different way. I'm not giving solutions yet, so I'm not going to say it out loud. Yeah, we're just thinking like if you want to do something in Oslo, you have to look at what Oslo needs. Like if you want to do something global, then go for it. But like if you want to do something in Oslo, then figure out what Oslo needs right now and like what this city needs in order to be greener. Not necessarily in the like a greenery, nature greener, but yeah. What else do we have? Yeah, hop in.
For me, it's just that it seems like you're taking safe things to fix, like clean water and green Oslo. I think it's better, like Emilia said, to find what Oslo actually needs and make that better, because we're surrounded with green, so it's kind of hard to know if you're going to go with the woods thing or if you're going to go with doing also greener. Then I would have done something different because it's so many parks around here.
And also, you're saying you want to connect people to nature, but how are you going to create that connection? Like, what are you going to do that's going to make people who today don't actually use the greenery and the nature around here? Like, what are you going to do that's going to bring those people in and actually start using the greenery and connect? Because the people who want to connect with nature in this city already do. Like, they're super good at it. They go out every weekend. So like, what are you going to do that's going to make those people who don't connect? Yeah, and it's a little bit, but yeah, find ways of maybe you should use the nature we already have rather than bringing in more. Like, bringing in more could be good, but why not try and use what we already have? I think that's what we have for the hate it or like shred it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Avkled, what's can you shoot?
Hello. Yeah, we have a bit the same in a way. Like you want to connect the people with nature. Maybe you should do something else than build more woods. I don't think we are lacking woods in Oslo or park. Yeah, you can just take the people out in nature, probably. Maybe make an event bureau. And if you like want to, yeah, and if you want to like make people to garden more, people can do that if they want to. They can just do it at home as well. And you have a lot of places you can do that already. Yeah, Sophia, you'd like to talk?
This one?
Both.
This Sophie?
Talking all the time.
Yeah, Sophia, you mentioned something
I also
about
struggle.
You were talking about nabolagshager.
Yeah, I also struggle a little bit with understanding the originality of the idea, because it seems to me that there's a lot of competition or organizations that already do this, like nabolagshagene. Oslo kommune has a lot of tiltak. Bikuben, I guess, like there's a lot of organizations that are working on like gardening in Oslo and community gardening, making nature more accessible to everyone in Oslo. So I don't quite understand why you feel the need to enter that space, I guess.
Okay. And I'd like to add that you're stepping really, really close to regulatory environments. And that's much, much harder to navigate than doing something where you can act more freely, because you need to get some politicians on board and some administration, and that'll slow you down enormously. Sophie, did you want to add something?
No.
Yep. No, you unmuted yourself. Okay. All right. So we're going to go through the rip it apart part first for all of us, all the groups, before we go into the cozy, huggy, fuzzy, warm feeling part. So next up, again, Feng and our fellowship, rip apart Avkled, please.
Shall we go first again?
Go.
Yes. So for us, it's like an issue that it's not very clear whether it's going to be about education or porn, like, or like education or pleasure. Education isn't as sexy, and it kind of requires a different approach, and they can be combined, but then it has to be super, super clear, like what's what. And then we're like, why are you going to do a magazine? Is it a physical one? Like physical magazines are going out massively, and not to mention the whole environmental impact of actually printing things. And if it's going to be digital written magazine, then like, what's the, like, you're talking about different formats, like video and text and podcast and everything, but what's going to be the different purpose of the different ones? Because right now it's just like not very clear, like, what are you going to get from this place? Also, like, how are you going to make this into something that's going to be sold in Norway and that people in Norway are going to want, if Norway is your market? Because abroad there's quite a lot of people doing similar things. So like, what's going to be your way of getting into the Norwegian market? Also, we're a little bit disappointed that there's not really any like changes after this week. Like, there's not a suggestion of like how it's going to look, or like a pitch for like more details on what you're thinking. We're feeling like it's quite weak compared to where you started and where it's come to. Like, there's not much new, and we don't really get that like feeling and passion. Yeah. Anything to add? Yeah, that's us.
Cool. Fellowship. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess we talked about this the same. Just to jump on that last point, there's some similarities with what Feng said. We also didn't feel that there was much difference from the last time you presented. Like, it feels like you haven't done much more research into what really the problem is that you want to solve, or if so, you haven't conveyed it to us. And you seems pretty spread on, you know, what is your target audience? You say marginalized groups, you say LGBTQA, but it feels like it's very broad, very spread, without having a specific focus. Plus, it's the unfocused part of what really the function of the porn is, except being classy, sexy, and looking good. Like, how is it really something that will convey women's health and help you in that regard? Yeah, you guys want to jump in?
Maybe in addition to that could be like, because you're both now focusing on women's health in general, the classy sexy part, and kind of lifting that forward. And then you have the marginalized groups and body positivity, and you're mentioning wheelchairs and more like, and I'm just, is that combinable, or does it actually crash somehow? That's what we were wondering.
Just a question,
say
can we
something.
ask to clear things up when there's a question like that, or can we not? Yes.
You mean to defend yourself? To defend
No,
your
not
position?
really defend, but just like to clear up, because I don't think we explained that very well in the first part.
Do we want to give them the stage to do that now?
I don't know if it's really important for us to understand the project. I guess our feedback is like that wasn't very clear from the way you presented it. So yeah.
All right.
Okay. Yeah.
Can I just
Okay, Ingeborg. Yeah.
sorry, but it's I find the project a bit confusing, because at the same time that it's so wide, you're so focused on doing the porn magazine. So you have this really like clear, like you're going to do all of this, but at the same time it's going to be a magazine. So I also think that you should, like, you have all these broad ideas, so why does it have to be a magazine? Like, your mind is somewhat narrow and wide at the same time, and I find that confusing.
Okay, nothing to add. I would say the same in other words. You're blinded by the love of your own genius of the sensationalist idea of doing a porn magazine, but you're completely unclear about what you actually want to achieve. So take a step back, fall out of love. Okay. And then, last but not least, let's take Feng apart. Your turn, Outlet and Fellowship. Hit them.
Should we start then, since Feng isn't here to start?
Go, go, go.
All right. So first of all, the presentation in itself was a little bit confusing because there's 3 ideas, but one of them is apparently not something you're gonna do. So why take the time to present it? Was one thing I noticed because I was taking notes about it, the first idea, but and then I don't know if you're going for the creative hub or the communication thing, or if that's the 2 that you're like struggling with, choosing between. But with the community thing, I'm a little surprised that if you've done enough research, because it seems to me like a lot of people are doing this already in Oslo and in Norway. So I am struggling with understanding, first of all, what the project is. That did not become very clear, and also like what is, like, how is it unique? How is it something no one else is doing? And yeah, and also with the creative hub, it's a, no, I'm not gonna, I can't praise it, but it's I am struggling also with how to understand. I think you should choose either having it as a cafe or having it as a remote work place, because those 2 do not combine. If you do remote work, you would like want some kind of quiet, although I do understand the concept of coming together to create something. But yeah, I was struggling a little bit with that. I don't know if anyone else from my group wants to add something.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
it's the cafe thing. It's, as Sophia said, it's sort of divided between like, is it a cafe with games, or is it sort of a lavterskel, low maintenance offer for remote workers, like, because we have like Rebel spaces, Epicenter, places like that. Is it like a low maintenance version of that? Because then you have like cafes and libraries where that would also be possible. And then the games, including like having games and everything, that's something that most or a lot of neighborhood cafes and bars already have. And the Bastard in Köpenhamn, it looks like that's mostly like a game place for playing, for having, yeah, board games and stuff. So I'm struggling to like see the combination there.
Yeah, and where are you gonna earn the money? It's like you're not gonna have a cafe, and you're like gonna be a budget remote workplace. We're gonna pay for that.
Yeah, because
Like,
if
no,
it was, if
it's
you were
no money.
Can I shoot in here? Or was I not allowed to shoot in? And
No.
no,
No, we
okay.
don't defend. We don't defend. We just stick in.
Tante, vil du si noe?
Yeah, it was just about that. If it was a pop-up and a membership, how is that going to earn money? Yeah.
I think that's
Anything
it.
else? Sophie.
No, I think that's it from us,
Okay.
I guess.
Well, I'll repeat something that has been said before. I think you have a couple of ideas, but you have a really hard time deciding which one you actually want to do. And you need to get a grip on that somehow. There's several ways, but you need to get a grip on that. Otherwise, you will still be revolving around what to do in the next weeks. Okay. That didn't feel as brutal as the last time.
We haven't done yet.
Oh, you haven't done yet. Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Now I'm curious.
Okay. All right. What we thought you were kind of landed on the communication idea, so we kind of concentrated on feedback for that, because that's where we could kind of see the most of your motivation and enthusiasm. But for this, we were speaking a lot about what is the underlying problem, really, because the way you speak about it now, it's more like people don't understand each other when they talk verbally, and that you feel a need to train people to understand the meaning behind their words, what they're actually communicating, and how to actually, bring a message across. But it's like that could be anything right now. So we were like, is it couples therapy? Is it for businesses? Is it like learning to know how to talk to colleagues that don't have the same professional background as yourself? So it's like, it is very unclear for us where this focus really lies right now. So going down to the fundamental principles and the real needs behind this, I guess, is our suggestion. Yeah. Anything else?
I want to say something. Yeah. It's what will be the level? Is it intellectual level? Is it like who are the target groups? Like, do you aim to provide communication within the family? I mean, within the family, or is it like again for the immigrants? And who will be prioritize group? And because if it will be in general, then it's like stacking thing you can never survive. And there's I couldn't see any target group like and the level, which level it will be, intellectual level or like primary level. For example, when I came here, I even couldn't. I was refereeing in football games, and the parents were really complaining about the kids were talking about too much F words. I even don't know what's the F words in Norway in Norwegian, and I tried to learn this. I typed like this is a level. This is from on my side, and what will be the level?
Okay.
Are
we done?
Sorry,
Thomas.
I have one thing to add here. Not just to be a little bit of an echo chamber. We also just, as you said, we concentrate on the communication part because it feels like the first idea is a thing that you guys been talking about since like last year, and the ID board and so on, and it's like the thing in Bastard in Denmark and all that, and it seems like something that's known and I wouldn't say safe, but the idea has been established already. But you mostly seem interested in this broad and really challenging topic of communication. So I think you should just go fully into that and just dump the other one. But it's really difficult, as you guys have been saying. And it seems like such a fresh thing, so it's hard to give super specific feedback because you don't know what it is yet. It's very much conceptual still. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So that's as I said before, that didn't feel as painful as last time. Maybe also because we're getting used to it. Maybe we've also been asking those questions to ourselves, so they're not that unexpected. It can also be a very, very, very helpful information system if you do that as a service to each other, let's say in a week, and you hear the same things. If it somehow gets boring to say the same things to the other groups and to hear the same things from the other groups, well, something's wrong, right? That means you haven't been moving. Just that meta information is really important. So to try and listen out and feel out for these kinds of things. Okay. So we're nearing an end. So it's time for the cuddly stuff. So Feng and Ovklet, do you want to give some love to Fellowship? What is beautiful about them?
Us again? It was Offclats, right?
No, it's Fellowship goes first. Fellowship receives love first. They also received hate first.
Yeah. We talked about it. It was a little bit hard to actually pinpoint what we loved about it because it wasn't very specific what it was. But green is always very nice. We need more of it. It's nice to call it a bio insects.
Biodiversity.
Like, yes, thank you. So it's a good thing. We need more of it. That's true. Something more?
We well, as like a following of making cities greener is like it can help purify the air, give better overall health, biodiversity. It has great potential in Norway because we are so nature positive. So it's like it's a country where like bringing more focus on nature isn't necessarily very like people aren't very resistant towards it, so there's potential in that sense. But yeah, like it requires that it gets sharpened and like more precise, and basically we were saying it kind of needs a pitch that sells it in a bit more directly. And now I can say that suggestion that we had for one of the things earlier, Galila was saying that maybe an alternative to like bringing forests into the city is using this mose. Moss. Yeah, moss. That can grow on concrete. Apparently there's one that's like evolved or whatever that can grow on concrete, and it's super good at purifying air, and it would like cover these horrible boring buildings with something green, and it would be maybe a bit more of a not so what did you say, Thomas? Like it was politically difficult to bring like nature like forests and stuff. Yeah, so maybe like moss would be an easier way, and it's not done so much, I think, in Norway or in Oslo. So it would be something a little bit new as well, maybe. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, and I think like as well we were thinking about it isn't necessarily that it needs to stay in Oslo, right? But we also do have the money, so we could probably fund new research that could be used in different countries, which would be awesome. So even though it doesn't need to stay here, it can kind of be produced there, and we can. And since we're so nature-loving people, there's a possibility there to actually get funding because people like it. And then I also think that even though we have nature around us, most of us actually don't use it enough. So there could be maybe the connection between, because what you're talking about as well is like, how do we get people more connected to nature? So maybe instead of creating new versions of nature, maybe just like, how do we actually connect people with this? Yeah, in the work hours or whatever that looks like. But I don't think we ever get enough green. So yeah, I think it's cool.
Are we allowed to give some clarification in this part?
Do we allow that? Who wants to do that?
It's the love part, I guess.
Yeah.
Go.
I guess not.
This a little bit, yeah. A short one. Give us
Okay,
a short
I was
one.
just gonna tell you because you said about the city angle. We've done, of course, some research is very early and all that, but the green roof part is specifically from a Dutch company that has made a business out of making greenery on top of bus stops and making green roofs on bus stops. And that is an idea to look into, but then it's a lot about, okay, who owns the bus stops? Who really does that? Is it the city? Is it a private company? How do we make a business out of it? Is there a business model to do this? You know, you sell the roofs and then it's done and so on. So there's stuff to look at. I love it. Biodiversity. So that we still have a lot to work to do.
I said short.
I said it fast.
Doesn't help. So I think it's super important to look at how to retrofit cities. Half the population of the planet lives in these things, and it's debatable whether that's a good idea, but they are not going to go away anytime soon. But at the same time, it's super brittle, right? Take out the power and the city is gone in 3 days. So I'm just going to post a link to my friends at Dark Matter Labs that they've also looked at. I put that in the WhatsApp chat because that holds longer. Indy, the founder of this, is a good friend of mine. So if you see it of value to have a real conversation with them, then we can surely organize that. Yeah, good.
Shouldn't we also bring some love?
Of course, give them some, Emilia.
Go ahead.
Well, green is always good, and the city or the Oslo is pretty nice, but it could always be better. And I feel like there's a lot of spots that is super gray that needs. You just feel like when you walk through the city, you can't breathe, even though we're surrounded by woods and we have the water. But so of course we would love more greens. So it's not a bad idea. And you can add something, you guys.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Maybe you go.
Oh, okay. Now, like everybody has walked into a office that is boring and a green office. So we definitely need more green infrastructure in every city, I think. And for the hagespottene, the city gardening is like a long waiting list. So how can we like create spots for all the one who wants a spot to farm? Because like, yeah, seems like an awesome way to how to say, get more food even closer to you and less transport, and yeah, give more food for everybody in the world. Craft.
Yeah, there was someone that said during the roasting part that it was difficult to get like new people to be interested in nature, and like the ones that already were so connected with nature. I think you could definitely work on something there as well. Like there's concept there like forest bathing and stuff to make the connection with nature deeper. So that's also a segment. Other than that, I agree with what everyone else is saying. Like although there are a lot of initiatives, there could always be more. So.
Okay. I just want to add one more thing. If you ask Midjourney, for example, for how a city of the future should look like, usually it's a mixture of shiny skyscrapers or round houses and green. And if that's a reflection of how we want to city of the future to look like, because that's basically what AI or machine learning machines do. They reflect back at us what they find. Then it's definitely worth contributing to creating that because it seems to be out there somehow. So like, yeah, to add that.
Let's just be
Good.
inspired by the hobbits.
Yeah.
Let's go for that.
Yeah.
Love it.
All right. Okay, you happy, fellowship? You got some love? Yeah, good. Now, Avklet, get ready to be hugged. Fellowship and Feng, go ahead.
I can start. This idea to help women about their like learning their women health, like sexual health, and anything. It's especially really important, like for the closed cultures, not even for like locals, but also it's really important. I believe that it's really important for the one foreigners who lives in Norway, because of the cultural structure. There are many walls and limitations in the women life, and by using this as a tool, they will be more open and also more eager, willing to learn more, and that will also be a help to family life for their future life. I love this idea.
Yeah. I mean, it's similar to what Alim said and what we've said before too, like the idea and the want and the area you want to improve is great. I love that you want to do this. And but since Emilia gave like tips in this section too, I have also a tip in that regard, because you have this broad focus on how you want to convey your idea, like website and podcast and magazine and all that. So I think at least for my part, when I consume other stuff like this that are more specialized, it's usually from one angle or maximum two. So just like that, what's the Norwegian magazine that only is in print? Also, right. And you know, that's a thing nowadays that it's only in print. It's not online. And when it's been printed, that number and it runs out, you can't get it again. So it gives the FOMO of not buying it when it's being printed and when it's done. I follow magazines like that, and which is just about coffee. But Emily knows it. And that's a cool thing, because then you're like, oh, but that magazine and that like interview with that person, and maybe then you run like a new print maybe a year later or something. So there's a lot of good things to do there. That doesn't make it so you have to use every angle.
I'll just shoot in that I think there is a redefinition of sexuality and the focus, like or the term porn or the liberalization of sexuality. There's a momentum there. There is a shift also. In Norway, it has maybe been like the most closed up culture when it comes to speaking about this at all. So there is something really interesting, and there is something I think you're tapping into, a potential that is for real. And there are growing cultures and environments in Oslo that I know that you could probably tap into and maybe collaborate with. So yeah, I think porn is kind of ready to be redefined somehow, and it's already being that is already happening. So it's really interesting.
Us?
Go ahead.
Yes, so timing wise, it's amazing with the focus on women, sexuality, and health, and like Lars says so many times, but the whole like there's no such or no idea more powerful than an idea whose time has come or whatever it is. And I feel like if this gets like if you like find your thing in this and like make it manage to own it, then I think you really have something powerful. We basically a lot of the that's been said. We were saying that seeing as you've been talking about so many different like formats, maybe like sectioning it so that say like the podcast is the education and the Instagram is for inspiration and the website is like a, I don't know, membership thing where there's actual sexual tools or whatever, or porn or whatever you want to do. I think that would be a really like we were thinking that would be a really organized way of keeping your platforms clear. We also think that I mean we were kind of saying against ourselves now, but we were saying like it has to be clear whether it's like porn or education, but it does kind of go hand in hand, because education about the female body and understanding of the female body is like essential in order to be able to enjoy the female body. And if you like, we're not never taught how to understand how our bodies work. We're just kind of put into a man's world, and then you're just like what's it called, left on your own to like figure things out. And if you don't have a support network around you that teaches you things or like makes you curious about things, then you just kind of stuck. So I think it's definitely extremely valuable, and like it's I think it's just about finding your little way of getting out there, and whether that is to be maybe that means that you have to kill some of the like areas that you want to go into, like with you were saying like LGBTQ and wheelchairs and like disabled people and all, like maybe in the beginning you have to be more like not narrowed, but like focus on one thing to begin with, and then maybe you can broaden out after a while. Maybe that's something that can help you actually gain momentum and gain, I don't know, strength in the market. And yeah, I know that there's a lot of this going on in Australia at the moment, like a lot of like communities where they focus a lot on like these female kind of retreats where they all focus on like finding their sexuality and blah, blah, blah. And a regular at the coffee shop I used to work at here in Oslo, I don't know the details and I don't really want to know the details, but she's part of this like local group of girls here in Oslo that have these like sex parties and stuff and are very like
Juice box. Juice box, yeah, we know about juice box.
Oh, maybe, yeah. So then you already know about them. But if you would want to talk to her, I could always ask if she wants to talk to you. I don't know. But yeah, I don't think that came out very clear. But basically, big thumbs up. Just find your like thing and stick to it. Not try to do everything, because you're not going to be able to do everything all at once.
I also, just a quick comment, since Thomas Emil was allowed. Just absolutely, we 100% agree. And when we say like disabled stuff, like we want to do issues that has different themes. So it wouldn't have like every issue would have all the themes that we're talking about. It would be spaced out. But yeah, and also please send me the link to the female retreats in Australia. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, and I think the momentum here is massive, because I think like right now you just said juice box and everyone was like, yeah, we know that, but they don't market themselves almost at all. And also, if I would say the book Led med Skjeden, like yeah, Yep, I'm on a cabin trip and I have 4 females here, and everyone's like, yeah. So we know that one book. That's literally the one book that I know that we could. Oh, there's a new one. Okay, yeah, nice. Okay, so yeah, it just says something about we literally are craving this information. So if you just say it in the right way and you find your core, and then it can always be more platforms later. It could always be like one core, and then you can, if it goes well, then you have a podcast, then you do this, then you do like, you can expand, right? But just finding your core, doing it well, shit's gonna be cool, I think. I would love to buy it.
Anything else?
No, Emilia and Nina said it very well. So nothing from me at least. I love the idea. We need more of it, so that's good.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna put it into chat. Drawdown. Have you heard of Drawdown Project Drawdown? No. It's an assessment of what we need to do in order to save the situation based on numbers. Big research group led by Paul Hawken, is the guy's name. There's also a book around that. And the most important thing we can do to resolve climate chaos is female empowerment. I would have thought. So you're definitely onto something here. And I think after a couple of 1,000 years of dudes running the show, I think it's important to bring your voices back, but I think it needs to be your voice, right? It's there's a lot going on around that to identify what is actually the feminine, what is actually the female voice. I can only tap into that through Vanessa, and I sent you the link yesterday, and feel free to reach out to her. She knows that there might be somebody reaching out to her. And she's part of the leading group of female movement of 250,000 women all over the globe, trying to identify a new paradigm for what it means to be a woman. And through her, I see that there are so many activities, all sorts of names, red tent, optimized woman for being more powerful in the workplace based on your cyclical nature. Women's circles all over the place, all the time. I didn't know that. So I think there's massive room to tap into, massive room. And coordinating that and nurturing that is a really powerful move. So that's good. Really do it. Okay.
Can I just add? You should probably talk to Iselin Guttormsen if you're doing the podcast thing.
Yeah, we will.
She's on our list.
Okay, good.
Nice. All right. So last but not least, Feng. Let's give Feng some love. Who wants to begin?
I can start. Sorry. Yeah, it's for focusing on the communication idea. As said, I think that the need for empathy and understanding is just greater than ever. So any contribution to that is very welcome. Anything that can reduce conflict and bring people together and create bridges is really vital at the time we're in. So if you manage to create a tool for that, that is, yeah, that would be a great addition, I think. And I also want to, this is maybe not the project itself, but I want to, I'm kind of grateful for you for the way you share this today, even if it's not like a very maybe professional presentation if you're pitching a project, but I learned a lot from you presenting your process, and I love the way that you found ways to check on yourselves whether this is aligned with what you really want to do this early in a process, because it's really easy to just, yeah, the world needs this, and what can we do, and how can we be important, but that you actually manage to check in with, like, is this something we can see ourselves doing in a long time, for a long time, and then just ditching things in an early phase based on your own passion. That was really inspiring, and I think we need to do the same in our team. Yeah, so I think, in my opinion, today you contributed to my understanding of how we can use each other as a class, how we can give feedback. I was also thinking, like, does it necessarily need to be the shredding? Are we like more like a nuanced group? Can we manage to give each other feedback through like sentences that contain both like good things and bad things, and are we able to kind of pull out the necessary information? It's like the concept of a Shark Tank to me is a bit like, you go in there and I think it places the focus a little bit on the wrong things. It places a focus on you to shine and be brilliant and be perfect, and I think we're at a phase where that doesn't really contribute much, and we all know how to make a perfect presentation, or at least approach that task. So I just, the way you brought things down and invited us into your process and way of thinking was just a great addition today.
I just wanted to add to that, because when you did the first thing of presenting, like, oh, this was the idea we had, and then we kind of abandoned it, because we kind of got the question, what was our process? And that was your process. You started to work on something and you abandoned it and you wanted to show us. So that was nice. And you said that most of what we all talked about. And I just like the idea of it's something, well, with the communication part, that it's something super interesting, like you wanted to work on it and then it interests you, but it's super complicated. And I understand that can be incredibly fun and challenging. So I'm just gonna say I look forward to hear more.
I want to say a few words. The idea, the communication, to emphasize the importance of the communication between the individuals or between the different cultures, between societies. It's the idea is awesome, and to help people to get to be aware of this, and even like like even without focusing to a special group, it's then solutions will show up. But the importance of the like establishing communication between things, between people, individuals, it's so crucial and so is important. The idea and it's shiny, and then it's really impressive for me. I love the idea actually, and what you want to achieve is awesome. As a foreigner living in Norway, trying to learn this local language.
Yeah, is it us?
Go ahead.
Okay. Like, if you're gonna just talk about the communication, it's like definitely a problem. I like huge potential. It's like probably the key to save the world. So if you find a way to create something that can yeah, to solve this problem, because like, why do we have problems in the world? It's mostly communication. So it's like just yeah, wow. So it's super hard probably to create this in a way, but surely it has something has to be done, and I'm great you're gonna solve it.
And
Yeah,
also, God damn it.
sure,
Always
sure,
have to
Sophie.
speak it. Sophie,
Yeah,
which one of us should talk?
go ahead.
Okay. No, just the same thing that Rib said, that it is such an important topic, and I think you raised a very, very good point in that we don't learn about this topic in school, and we definitely should, and especially with the new regulations with livsmestring and stuff like that, it doesn't make sense that you don't learn how to communicate well. And just because there are other people doing the same, it only means that you have a lot of people to talk to and learn from. And I can give you some connections there if you want. And also, if you, yeah, you can just learn from them and what are they not doing, and then just, do that. So I think it has immense potential, and it's such an important topic as well. All right, I'm good.
Yeah, no, just I think it has really great potential. So like if you manage to be creative about it and like make something really cool out of it, that really helps people in the way they communicate, I think it can be really, really successful. So yeah.
Okay. Anything else? So to me, we had a conversation in the group around the question of what is it that you want to do, and I came out of that with the sense that the soul of your group want to do the communication thing, and the mind wants to do the other thing. And this, I find this reflected both in your presentation today and in the response of the groups, which is a response to your presentation, of course, but to the bias you put there. But effectively, you showed us what you are going to do, what you think you are going to do, and then you spend the rest of the time talking about the thing you really like. And so maybe there's some power in bringing those things together. So maybe you were actually talking about the why, and maybe the thing you think you need to be doing could be your first product to achieve the why, right? And if you reframe it like that, can become very powerful, because then you create yourself a learning environment for what you actually want to do, to know exactly how that works, because it's a really difficult thing that might be part of why you are a little bit scared of tackling it, because it's so huge. But if you break it down into just little components, that's the first step, then it starts making a lot of sense. So I can see that. Okay. So we're almost there. So what we're going to do is going to take a short break, and I'm going to do a really selfish move, because I'm going to ask you, all of you individually, not as groups, to do the same thing for me. So I want you to think about this, please, individually, and write it down. First, if you reflect back, what was missing? What was useless? What was too much, right? Or anything else that you want to point towards that was, rubbish. And then I'd love to hear what are your most important takeaways? What are your insights? How do you see the world differently now, if any, right? So I'd love to hear those two. Yeah.
For how long?
I have time. No, but I don't know. I'm pretty sure you feel what's right. I think if each of you speaks for a few minutes, we'll have a full hour. I think that's roughly what we should aim for. Yeah,
That's cool. But I was actually thinking about the break for writing things down.
Ah, got it. Okay, how long do you want? 10 minutes?
15.
Yeah.
And maybe throw in like a mini break in there. Like we can do a 15-minute thought process, and then if someone wants to think more, I would like some more time actually. So
So 15 minutes in total, or what do you need?
let's say 20 minutes in total, so that
Okay.
yeah.
So
if
we
you need
meet
more
back
time,
here at 10 to the hour, 10 to 12. Beautiful. Okay, so last part of our last session together. I'm not sure whether I should look forward to this or should I be scared? Okay. Who wants to begin? And then you just pass it on to the next person, please. Anybody?
Do we do both questions
I-
at the same time?
I'd say you can do both at the same time. Yeah.
Get it. I can just start then, I think. First of all, the first question, what is missing? For me, I think you are missing because I think Zoom is rubbish. I've actually during this time knitted a whole hat. I'm almost done. I don't know, but that's have actually it's actually helped me to focus, because that's a thing that it takes some time to like to adjust to the way you are speaking, and for me I really have to focus, so I either like take notes like all the time, or I just knit and my mind goes to like the thinking listening mode. And I also think that something that I missed like during the beginning was like it was unclear to what this was and how it was going to be. I was kind of thinking that you would just like give us your knowledge like in a package and I would take it and I would learn, but now I understand that's not the way you do it. And I think we also said like yesterday, it all kind of made more sense when you like, it's a learning process. I understand that you have to learn. And my most important takeaway is that entrepreneurial activism is not something that can be taught. It's a choice that you take and you have to stick to it, and to like truly understand it you have to live it. So it's nothing that can be taught, and I think I need to stop thinking that people can just teach me stuff. I need to understand that for me to understand things I need to do it. So yeah, that's me, and
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna send it
Beautiful.
to Galila.
I felt that was going to be me. Just knew it. But yeah, it's just the roasting part now. Yeah, back, yeah. Okay. Okay. So I had a hard time understanding the meaning behind the things, especially the ones I'd never heard of before. So I had to go back and read up on it a lot of times. and sometimes there were no visuals, and for me that's sometimes very important because I think both visually and what's it called, verbally. Yeah, so it's very nice to have something to remember the different parts to stick into the head. Oh God, sorry, my English. But yeah, and things I liked. Long list. You've challenged my way of thinking, especially with the plume thing. I didn't really use plume, but I questioned things a lot. So it's nice to kind of reflect on the things that we've been doing here. And yeah, it's very nice. And I had a lot of fun with the lessons, the homeworks, with the lucid questions and the plume, with creating the alien. Had a lot of fun. I love doing that. It's so creative and just coming up with things. Love that. Yeah, and you made my brain go nonstop, thinking and reflecting all the time. And yeah, challenging me on speaking more. And with the you said something about you need to get embarrassed once a day or something, and it just really made me think like, okay, I don't mind getting embarrassed. So why don't I ask more questions? So that's nice. Just thinking about that. Should do more. Loved hearing more about you, and all the tools you have given us. I need to go back and read more read more about them, but love them. Probably gonna use them. So thank you. And then yeah, I also love the first question you asked us, the first day, like the first thing. What do I believe in? Read a long list as well. Very nice. Yeah, like using the AI thing. I said that earlier. And the roasting part, because I really need to learn more about that. But it's very nice to be challenged on those things. So yeah, I've loved these couple of weeks. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you, Lila. Very nice.
Pass it on.
Sorry, I forgot. Sophia Hoff.
Thank you. So for what was the, I guess, negative feedback or the yeah. I also
that's what it's
had,
called. Say it.
yeah.
Negative.
Yeah, I don't like the word though. The potential. But I also had some problems like following it in the beginning. 'Cause it wasn't, I couldn't really like catch on. And then since it's on Zoom, like I sort of like my brain sort of just wandered off a bit. But then I caught on after a couple sessions. And then it was like, because I had to like tune my brain into the way you talked and the way you expressed things and everything. But after that, it was super interesting. And then one like a detail to that is that sometimes when you talked about like a topic or something, you like almost like you took like a break and then mid-sentence you sort of changed topic. So sometimes it was difficult to like hang on to your thought process there. But I guess that's because people get eager and like there's a lot to talk about. And important takeaways. I really love like the, as Gunilla also mentioned, the feedback. First of all, to be like selective of who gives you feedback. Like I hadn't thought about that before, that much before you mentioned it. Like don't get feedback from your mom because it's not valid. Like my mom loves the porn idea, as I mentioned to you before. Like, and that's a miracle. That shouldn't happen. And also like holding, like giving feedback to each other in like a really honest, helpful way. Sort of ripping apart our ideas and everything. I think that's that's been really helpful, and I think that's something we have to continue doing throughout the project period. I think it's really cool. And yeah, it made me like think about like what other ways are there of doing this project, and what other ways are there of doing like everything. Like, does a couch have to be does it have to look like a couch? What else can it look like? You know? So always questioning, always trying to see different ways of doing stuff. I think that's like my most important takeaway. So yeah, thank you for that. I'm going to give it to Sophie number 2.
Thank you, I guess. I think starting with the negative, I agree with what Ingeborg said about the lack of structure. It felt a little bit, just because we weren't informed what we were gonna be taught, it felt a little bit like you kind of made things up as you went. Maybe that's a bit extreme to say, but so, and then for me personally, it's kind of hard to follow what you're saying if I don't know what it is we're supposed to get out of it. Then it just feels a bit like there's a lot of monologues and not, and not that much interaction. Which is another point I think is a bit bad with Zoom. I don't think Zoom is a very good educational setting, ironically enough, since it's been used for that during COVID. But it makes it very hard to have interactions, because like every time, the few times I tried to speak, like every single time, like someone else spoke at the same time, and it becomes so awkward and like not interactive at all. But I think that was much better like the last couple of sessions, where it has been more interaction and more of us in groups, because then it is easier. So I wish there was more of that during the first ones as well, that we would have like a lesson and then go into groups to debrief amongst ourselves, and then come back out. A little note there. And then, yep, the positive things, it really changed the way I view my own ideas, or our own ideas, and how easy it is to fall in love with your own concepts, but then how important it is to take a step back and reevaluate the why in why we're doing this. Same thing with the alien experiment. I thought was a really fun exercise to get to reflect and think about, again, the why, or why we're doing things. And yeah, and also really enjoyed this kind of thing where you both get the constructive feedback and the positives, because it is very easy to get, especially with our small group, it can get difficult to give constructive criticism. So like being forced to in a kind of fun setting with a roast is maybe a bit easier, I think. And like even today, I wasn't there last time, but it seems like today, like it wasn't that difficult for people to still be saklig. So yeah. So overall, yeah, thank you. It was nice. So I'll send it over to someone not in my group. Garnes.
Hey. So I can sign up for most of what's been said already, but I'll add my own anyway. I think for me, with the roasting, my main issue with it was that at the beginning, you like basically the whole time, and I kind of respect that you did this, but at the same time, it made it difficult to understand, because you speak to us as if we already knew what you talked about, which I take as a sign of like respect, and you see us as adults and not gonna like be, what's it called, like talked down at us. But this was, for a lot of us at least, brand new way of talking about things and thinking about things. So it felt a bit like it was so up there that it kind of went way above my head, and then I was just like struggling to like even grasp what it was. But it got better with understanding you more and kind of getting more into the topics and everything. And also I like a little bit with what someone else said here with like the structure and kind of the I don't know, the aim of what we were doing. And I think now I see that half the point was that there isn't like a clear goal each day. It's supposed to be like, we see where we get, we see which way the conversation goes, and like what we need, what you want to talk about, what tangents pop up, which is the fun part. But I think personally, I could have benefited from the beginning as like a disclaimer, almost like just trust the process. We don't know where we're going, but it will feel confusing at times, and that's completely normal. But in the end, it will most likely make a lot more sense to you. Just like something like that at the beginning would have helped me a lot to just be patient and be like, okay, I'm completely confused right now, but hopefully it will make sense in the end. And it did make a lot more sense in the end. Like things kind of came together a bit at the end. So yeah. And with the love part, what I really take away and everything, personally for me, the biggest takeaway has been just to have a more open mind and see connections between things. And I think that's just rubbed off from being around someone like you who thinks like that, who just doesn't see like obstacles in a way. And yeah, I see that's really valuable to just take that with me, like the questioning everything and seeing connections. And also, when you talked around the whole, we need to play game A and B at the same time. I didn't get all the little bits around what you talked about there, but I felt like I got the general point of it. Like we can't just think about the future and we can't just think about now. We have to play them both at the same time. They have to kind of coincide. And I think for me, that kind of clicked for just everyday use to get perspective and to find your why, find your purpose, and be able to follow your dream. And it was a little bit that which helped eliminate that whole clothing library thing, because I was like, yeah, it's a cool idea now, and it would probably be a cool idea in the future for someone else, but not for us. Like it didn't serve our purpose, and it kind of thinking both here and now and in the future around that idea helped a lot. So yeah, I'll definitely take that with me. And apart from that, like everything what everyone else has said. So thank you. And I'm going to send it on to Ruben.
Hello, thank you. Yeah, it has been a ride, Thomas. We got the message to just trust you, Lars said. We should never have trusted you. But yeah, in the beginning, it has been a lot of confusion. It has. I don't know, maybe it was the message that I should just like go with the flow. So I maybe we're in a bit passive. So because I just wanted to see where this ended. But I also think, like Emilie Garnes said beautifully, it has been like, I think you thought we knew more than we did, because like I feel like you touched, if the topic was an iceberg, you just touched the tops on so many topics, and it made it really like, before we even had went into that topic, you were on the next one. So I was like Googling and like try to learn the topic you maybe have used year to learn in 2 seconds by Googling. So I think like to really more like focus on the really core on your program, really go into that is more important than touch things. Like go in deep with like more work, less talking from you, more work from the groups. It will be we will have more better conversations, I think. like combine, like how can we combine like your awesome knowledge to like create more mental work and in groups. I think you know, at least for me, the greatest takeaway, I really love how you made me think differently. I think this is something I will take with me for the rest of my life. Really question everything. The alien concept is genius, I think. Yeah, even if I just like touched it in a way, like I really have to like have more stillness in my life to really question more things. Because like in a everyday life, I feel like I understand parents more. The kids bugging you, fucking all the time, and you don't put down the time to really talk to it. It's yeah, it's really horrible, and I would be a horrible parent right now because I don't talk too much to my kid. But still, like I will. It's a super great tool. Thank you, really. Thank you. I appreciate the time with you. Next one, Thomas.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a lot have been said already. But I also felt a little bit lost in the beginning. I was trying to think like what Lars has been like saying over and over last semester again and again with other teachers as well, like trust the process, just go with it. It'll make sense, you know. But I did get a little lost in the beginning, especially when you're on certain topics and you go pretty slow at times. It's almost like time stops and I lose the whatever you were talking about. But it made sense or more sense over time, especially with the more creative tasks you were doing. So yeah, I mean, most have been said already that I agree on when it comes to being unclear necessarily on where the main end goal was. I guess I was more okay with it with not knowing because I think that's also a fun process. And if I thought like, okay, you know, let's see where this goes. If it's good, it's good. And if it's not, we'll have to say so. But it was good, and I love the content, and that's pretty much the main part that I took away. Especially the creative processes you put us through, the way you made us think and be creative, and also challenging each other to be more direct with our thoughts. We've had some of that in the class, but I think it's good to have like, okay, now you have a specific room to give this feedback, and you have to be unfiltered in it, of course, constructive, but direct. Yeah, tools, the content, I really like that, so I'm going to take that with me. I really enjoyed that. And I'll pass it on to Shanti.
Yeah. So a lot have been said, but it has been an interesting ride. For me, in the beginning, I think it was difficult to pay attention or the concentration because, yeah, we never done this Zoom thing before, and it was a lot, and it was a lot that I didn't understand, and I was like, oh no, why do I not understand this? Lars said that I would love this guy, and I don't understand what he's saying, so I was a little stressed, but then. Yeah, so in the beginning, I didn't quite understand all the topics and the models, so it was a little rough beginning, but and we also were missing a lot of breaks, so probably got a little tired, but I wanted to keep up because I knew it was gold in here. But yeah, it was a lot of stuff at the same time, and like a little here, a little there, a lot of information. And as you said, Garnes, that maybe you thought that we knew a lot more than we actually did. But then after a while, the last couple of sessions has been much easier for me, probably also because we found out that the group shouldn't sit together because it was easy to to lose the concentration. but also I catched more, and of course we got to know you more, but I really wish that we could be in the same room so I could like feel your energy and your vibe, because that would probably help me a lot. And I think you're cool, so it would be nice to meet you. And but the last sessions have been much more easier for me. And also that yesterday it was so beautiful to hear your story, and I wish I had that the first day or the second day, because I also had a father who was psychotic for a really long time, and it was just nice to hear you saying that you've been there and you come back. And I wish that my father come back as good as you. So that was really, really, really beautiful. So I probably think that if I heard that story, I would understand a lot more of why you are thinking as you do and do as you do. And then the alien thing made me more conscious, and I try now to ask myself why I do as I do, why I think as I think. I mean, I think a lot, but I don't speak up that much. So I really want to be better there. So my alien has to kick me in the ass. And the roasting part is super cool. Really want to take that with me in the project now. Always be asking, or always like roast ourselves, so we can always have a good answer to, what are we doing and why are we doing it. And it's just been super nice to learn how to challenge not even myself but others and the projects. And I'm really thankful, and Dankeschön, is that pura vida. So,
Dankeschön and pura vida. Yes. Dank dir.
Yeah, so thank you so much for spending your time with us.
Thank you. You should go next.
Oh my God, sorry, Fatma.
Thank you. Okay, the first thing, what's missing? Can you guys hear me, by the way? Yeah, okay. Yeah, a lot of things have already been said, but yeah, again, in the beginning, it was very unclear which way will it go. And sometimes it was hard to follow, because when you talked about something, then you took a long break or pause, then I forgot what you were talking about in the beginning. And sometimes when you pause, you start to talk about completely something else. And my mind was still there, that what was the first thing he was talking about. So yeah, a bit structure. And one more thing is that it would be nice in the beginning of the sessions that you said that I'm going to this and this. Yeah, it gives a direction. Yeah. What was the most important take out of this? I think I am more open-minded. Like, I can see that there's a lot of possibilities out there. And I start questioning everything. So it kind of changed my mindset in a way. And one more thing is that even if you have a dream or something you want to do, you might not start there. You gave the example by the roof tail company. I think that was pretty cool. And overall, I think now after this last, like the session yesterday, everything starts to make sense. So thank you. And yeah, Ali, you're next.
Yes. Hi, Thomas. As I said before, like I had the impression that it was to a read with abstract topics at the beginning, but after that, while proceeding, I saw that you built a path in the air which had really solid grounds, and I found concrete concepts that were entrenched in the flesh and bones, actually. But if we will build this in another level, then why we are not doing this more crazy way? we were actually more logic in the logical environments. And I would like to hear more about the entrepreneurs, you know, in your close circle, and what kind of reasoning and the methodology you used to solve the systematic or ordinary mistakes you have made before. And also a suggestion, it might have been a different and useful experience to watch your lecture by watching you with an entrepreneur in a face-to-face conversation who is from your close circle in 1 or 2 separate sessions. Then to give our learnings and feedbacks and reflections to you, that might be a different experience. What I get from our lectures, how do you see, I mean, like, how do you see the world, how I see the world? I'll like this soft start and introduction to the subject increased, I believe that it increased the interest of me and suddenly made me feel like I've known you for years. I don't know why that I felt this. I realized that I had to be more selfish, and I have to be more selfish. And there is a saying, act as crazy instead of being smart, compatible, and deal with the world's problems. Let the world deal with you and do what you want, since they will get used to you and your actions. What I realized is that the smart people who lack of empathy and lack of emotional intelligence are trying to narrow down the options as much as possible for shaping the world the way they want. But on the other side, crazy entrepreneurs diverge options infiniteness and get us out of the vicious circle. And yeah, one last thing, I really wonder what's the name of the book on your, that's just behind of you, like right shoulder. I tried to see that, but I couldn't manage to make it. Okay, songwriters and songwriter. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Who's missing? Okay, Ina.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for everything you've given us. Yeah, really. The improvement part, it's like it's been said in the beginning, I found you sometimes a little vague, a little like wondering. It was like you knew something we didn't know, and sometimes that was mostly what came through to me. Then again, I didn't quite know what to look for. So the emphasis and the focus point wasn't always that clear. And Amelia had a solution like, could that be resolved through a disclaimer or something? And I haven't, that could be done, of course, but I think like the focus itself from your side and the energy that you project could also help us stay with you. And I know this is even more difficult because it's through Zoom. So we kind of lose your enthusiasm, your focus in the present space. But it's like, yeah, if you kind of, I don't know if you have an experience with that, with like, there's this technique with like holding the space for everyone, even if we're in Zoom, you know, hold the focus and just, yeah, stay focused on what's actually the intention in this. And maybe that could make it easier for us to tap into what is underlying the words you're actually saying. Because I like the method of you inviting us into your universe without like actually just saying out loud what it is you want us to grasp. So I like that invitation, but sometimes I felt the focus was lacking a little bit for me in order to actually catch it and be part of it fully. Yeah, internet just refreshed, so my notes disappeared for a second. Bear with me. Yeah, I can mention, since I have written a 40 pages document from everything you have been saying. So So I've literally gotten a lot of content out of this. And I can just say that that's been my way of focusing, keeping track of your focus has been to literally write down everything you are saying in order to stay aligned somehow. So that was my technique. Yes. I also think, I think it's been said, but I also think explanatory or like more like concrete tasks along the way, even from the beginning, that were like focused at developing this participatory learning. The alien exercise was a really good one, but then again, it took me a long time to understand what that was really about. There's something that exemplifies what we like, the point we're in. Could have helped me out more, I think. What did I gain from this? I think I've learned to trust myself more and recognize and formulate what I want out of a teaching program. How do I make it mine? Because me leaning into your space has been so crucial for me in order to extract things, at least in the beginning. And I'm gonna have to run through these notes a couple of times to really grasp it, because you speak on so many levels at one on the same time. And I've been really tired and confused a lot of times. And I think of that as a really good thing, because it's an indicator that I've been exposed to something entirely new. And my brain has really been trying to grasp it and relate, and it has not been able to do so, meaning that the hooks and knobs I have in there are not valid. I can't hang this on anything existing. So while you've been speaking, my brain has been making like new hooks to hang the things you're teaching onto. So I know that just for a fact that new maps are being created, but it's taking time. And then again, your story yesterday was a really good addition to understanding where this all comes from, because what you teach is kind of a complex mesh of what you have learned, understood, experienced, and hardcore science, and it's so interwoven, because like you said, you're a child of two scientists, so you kind of always were within that realm, I guess. And yesterday's session just let me tap into and relate to that. And for some reason that just made it clearer to me, or gave me an understanding that what is your perspective and what is actually the objective science underneath this, to the degree that that actually exists at all. But yeah, that's a different story. So just immensely thankful. Yeah, it's like Ruben said, this is gonna keep working in me. I know for certain that it will for a long time, and shape how I make things, how I create things. Nina.
Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Yes. All right. Yeah, so I have some like overall feedback, and then I have some very concrete ones. Let's see. So I think, as has been mentioned, the whole structure part, I think for me, I don't really mind the no structure part. I probably actually prefer it, because then I don't get impatient, then I can just be present. But it might be easier for people in general to kind of not be hung up on the thought that you would need structure, or that you need somewhere to go, if you would do like a disclaimer in the beginning. Yeah, and say that like, yeah, it's not going to be a structure, just roll with it, and that's okay. But then again, and lots of my feedback are probably a bit opposing, I would say. It's like a bit for and against, because that's how teaching is. It works for someone and not everyone. So on the other side, maybe sitting in that uncomfortable setting is actually the biggest learning from this 3 weeks. Yeah, and having that realization. Yeah. So, and then sure, you jump from thing to thing, and that can also be hard to follow. And that's okay, just like, because that's also how you work. So it's interesting to see how your brain function, but it's probably very easy to lose where you're going sometimes. And then I think it makes it harder to remember, because you actually don't have the, like, our brains don't function the way that your brain does. So it's not easy to us, like Ines said, we don't have the hooks yet, right? So it's very hard for us to just like run into our brain, slang the stuff on the hook and then run out. Like we actually need to create it first. And then I think, oh, thank you. And then I think as well, in that space, what I would put weight on is, I think in the second week or this week, it felt a bit like being tested. Like being like, oh yeah, I did say this. What did I say about that? What do you remember from this? And then I can feel, at least for me, that my brain just went into mental block. And I wanted to Google, but then I was like, I'm not going to be truthful to myself if I'm going to Google this now, and I actually don't remember. So then it's like, okay, is that my fault, or is it then the setting, right? And then I kind of thought about that, and I was like, how could I have more hooks in my brain? And going through kind of how we learn the best as humans, that's usually through visuals more than words. So not that I want to have like a full PowerPoint with text all the time, but just maybe some visual representation of what you're going through. Because then you will actually create the hooks. Yeah, and we all learn in different ways. So that could be like a thing to look into. And then also I wrote a bit about like maybe switching up the sessions a bit, having maybe talking about something and then going to group and like discussion, going back and then sharing, and then having like a look into kind of a flow and intention of each day. And if you have an intention of where to go, like how to go through that process to actually be able to pull us through it, even though we're going to be uncomfortable, like that's fine. But yeah. And then I think it's a feedback, I think, for both Lars and you, actually. But that's for me a little bit in, because we have a lot of focus on, and it's a bit specific, but we have a lot of focus on personal leadership, right? That we need to set our own boundaries and we need to listen to ourselves, and that it's important to respect that. But then in the beginning, there was a lot of comments of, oh yeah, we don't need breaks, we don't do that, we can work all night, we don't do anything like this. And it can create like a pedestal, right? It can feel very like, oh, so be able to be on your level, we need to like not have breaks, we don't need to go pee, we don't need water. So I think it's just maybe not like create that like, oh, okay, I'm doing something wrong then just because I'm actually stepping up and taking charge for my own life and trying to actually respect those things. Yeah, and then I have a final one. I didn't know if I'm gonna do this one. But it's actually about children. And I think even though I'm laughing, for me this is actually quite important. And it is the fact that a lot of us females already have a lot of weight in the society to have children. And like, this is not the fact for me, at least as I know, but if I would be in that day, in that session, and I would be in that conversation where we talked about children, like, oh, you should have that, and that's like the most key important, and a lot of us commented on that part. If I would be in that meeting and I couldn't have children, that would have been a very, very, very difficult place to be. So I just think something about that, like, it's important to have our opinions, and I do feel that we need to have a society where we actually don't step on each other's toes, or it's okay to step on each other's toes, and then we can let people know, right? But I think also some things we can actually help with not putting more of a weight, because like, I don't know if I even want children. That is my choice, and I'm really struggling with that choice already, and I don't want that choice to be taken away from me. And I can feel the pressure from society and almost everyone around me. So I'm just like, in that space, I thought that was hard. And also people were like, oh yeah, for the children from you, like, oh, I don't want it. And I kind of was like, why are you guys making this harder for me? Even though I find children beautiful. And yeah, so there's a whole thing to it. Okay, that's done with that. Then the positive part, very inspirational. I'm not gonna swear, I loved it. And I think I love not having structure. And I also like the way the conversation and reflections and the big thoughts, and that it's a bit flowy. And I actually really enjoyed that you speak slow, because then I get the time to actually think my thoughts in between your thoughts, and then I'm creating my hooks. And then when you're speaking and I'm like, oh, so you think this, but I think this, and then, oh, okay, interesting. So that made it easier for me. And also super nice with recording, because then I can look through this again, which I would probably need. Yeah, and I just really appreciate that it's a calm and very honest atmosphere. I feel like it's not like in a meeting room where everything needs to be boxed and strict and everything. So that's very, very nice. And I just appreciate that it's I've been told like a lot throughout my life that I need to be more specific. I need to think more clearly. I need to think about money. I need to think about this and that. And I'm like, I don't want to. And this has kind of let me know that it's okay to not want to do that. And that it is okay to try to make something that is not based on money. Yeah, and be motivated by something else. Yeah, and I think lastly, I think it's super nice to see as well that in this space you've been super adaptable. That when you get ideas and feedback and whatever, you take it in, and then you're kind of like, okay, then we're going to flip it around, and then hopefully maybe we go towards some kind of where I want to be. And then usually that's what happens when it's co-created, right? So yeah, no, I really, really, really enjoyed this space. It was super nice for me. And I was very motivated, even though I also really do not like Zoom. So, but this physical would probably be, yeah. But thank you so much.
Awesome feedback, Nina.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry for the children part. It crossed my mind yesterday while we were doing this that something like that might be an issue for somebody in the room. I didn't think about you specifically, but I didn't follow that thought. Well, super valuable feedback. Thank you. Not entirely unexpected. Some of the confusion is due to being flexible, adaptive to the needs. Some of the confusion is due to me being lazy, and some of the confusion is due to actually putting you in that space of being confused. I think that's an important part. I believe that so I know exactly what the path is, and I've written it down. I know the structure, but I'm very, very flexible in how I get there. So I sometimes literally don't know where we're going exactly. I know what I want to achieve, and sometimes I cannot even tell you because that would define a point. So that's part of it. But I totally understand that there are some elements that can be improved. My weird way of talking, maybe. But also maybe it's helpful to have that space in between, right? Like you said, Nina. Speaking too fast would be the opposite of that. And I allow myself to take time to think. And what I heard a few times is something that I really hate when I experience it in others, which is changing trajectory mid-sentence. And if I do that, I have to really practice not doing that. So thank you very much. That was super valuable. Yeah, but all in all, I get the sense that what we did together, and I love that you pointed towards co-creation. We did this together, right? I was just the rope to hold on to, maybe sometimes a little bit too loose, but you did the actual work, right? You did the actual work. And we arrived at exactly where we wanted to be. Remember the very first session, fast track your minds and souls into being entrepreneurial activists. I think we did that. I also showed you the hero's journey. It tells you that there's confusion and chaos and the abyss somewhere. Right? And you come out stronger. So thank you for bearing with me. And I can also tell you that if you felt frustration in between, that's the same for me. It's also draining for me to go through that process, not only you. It also demands a lot of me. So thank you. And earlier, Lars and I were chatting, and he suggested that it might be helpful to offer that all of you as groups can take 2 hours in the next couple of weeks, whenever you need that, or we coordinate to discuss things, whatever you need. So whatever you think. You now know me pretty well. If you think I can contribute something, help you in some way, then use that. I'm going to put my LinkedIn into the WhatsApp so that you can connect and see if there's somebody that might be interesting to speak with in my network, somebody you want to get towards through my connections, then just let me know. Lars, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just post what I gave you feedback yesterday in the WhatsApp instead of saying it all. But first of all, I think you students gave some really good feedback, quite honest, and that was really constructive. But I think what was most valuable in this was to be in this process with Thomas. And what I wrote of feedback to Thomas yesterday is mirroring that. Thomas was one of the people that for the last maybe 5 years, maybe mostly have spent his time weaving the new consciousness, which means going into thousands of conversations with people and trying to connect into a meaning of how did we ever get into the situation we are in today? And you couldn't have done that 10 years ago, because something has shifted. The sense of urgency has shifted. The technologies have changed. So a lot of people have come together to sense that we need to understand where we are and what we are about to do to it. And to me, Thomas have been the gate into those conversations. And that's quite unique that we've been able to unfold and provide that. And I love that you got really a sense of a deep connection to your purpose in life and how you spend your life. You're basically in your choices in everyday life deciding who you want to be. And that is in accordance with what we talked about already. But now you had another person, which is really a soulmate and a brother, do the same process that was the intention of Emergence in his own language and in his way, and an updated way from what I've been able to think and do. So I promised when we did Emergence that we should at all time be open to innovate the model and how we do it. And this was a really, really important step towards our future. Maybe it will not unfold in the concept of emergence, but we'll certainly make sure that what you've been part of learning here will be part of much more people's journey, because it's so incredibly important. So I approached you, Thomas, some weeks ago and said that we need to do this, and you talked about making people more literate in the world we are, and we decided to make an experiment. So doing this was a huge experiment, and we embarked on it together, and I really love when we could do that. It's not the way education is normally formulated, because then, as you say, you should have a structure every day, and everything should be very precise. So you can just go to North and get me sacked. That's okay. I will never regret what we did here. But thank you for embarking on this journey, and most of all, thank you to you, Thomas, for showing up in my life. And a short message: if we could meet shortly in my Zoom link afterwards, just to explain you what is going to happen afterwards, I think that will calm down the brains a little bit.
Can we take a quick break first? Like 5 minutes?
Yeah, we can meet at 1 o'clock if you want.
Perfect, thank you.
So Thomas, thank you for
Cool.
all of us.
Yeah, thank you to all of you. Thank you for giving us the space to play together and experiment together. That was really, really good. I really enjoyed that. And I'm also happy that this is a soft ending, that we all get the chance to work together again. So looking forward to that. Cool.
Thank you so much.
Same. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's do one more week.
Shut it up.
Bye.
Well, come to Berlin
but
then.
guys, really, really think about spending those 2 hours. You can use it all through your exam period, and when you really need to crack something, then connect to the big nutcracker.
Yeah, important side note. Next week I'm going to change time zone. So from next week for 6 weeks, I'll be available roughly in your afternoon. So I get up at 7 or 6, but that's 1 or 2 your time. But then I usually have a bunch of calls, so it would prefer to have that later in the day if that's possible. Right?
Have a good one.
See you on WhatsApp. Ciao.